Hawaii ain't never stopped fighting for their.
They outside.
They just wrote it in the books as if they was part of America. They ain't got shit to do with America.
We see why it's going on.
Right?
Volcanoes is erupting, OG.
I'm saying.
It's been a minute.
Look, when the people down there, the real cleanse from Hawaii, they know what to do to make the land protected. They just ain't start activating certain nature forces to protect the land. They know what to do, and they know when to do it.
Come on.
Why? But for them not to do it, it gotta be a reason.
Yeah. Cook up on their ass.
Okay, nephew, I'm gonna let somebody else come in and ask the question.
Hell yeah,
I appreciate cooking with you, dog.
Broke their ass up. I appreciate you. All love. You know
I just answered your question, man. That's all.
No, it's all love. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That young blood getting me going. Love the youngsters. Oh, my baby Paige in here. Girl, you better bring your tail on up here. Got my girl Paige Flowers in the house, y'all. Ah.
Hey, you know, if I'm here, I got something for us now, right?
All the time.
What's going on?
You got it.
What's going
you
on?
Got it.
What's going on, right? See, you ain't got me started because you start talking about the Federal Reserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you start talking about this money system and how it all goes back to Switzerland. Now I got some stuff. See, I've been going to work. I haven't been saying much. I've been going to work studying the stuff that you've been saying about the paperwork, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we don't know is when you go back to that Treaty of Bern, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Switzerland, that was to preserve the literary works. What are the literary works for the United States? All of their paperwork. So we didn't realize that their paperwork had been copyrighted. So here you are putting your intellectual property on their copyrighted forms. Then they have 8 million statutes and codes, and they never expected us to find out that you had to have a Series 7 license to be able to touch the UCC forms in the first place. Now ask the people that's selling that damn paperwork, do you have a license? And you say you sovereign and you this and you that. But business, you need a license. So you still under their thumb when you fill out the fucking paperwork from the jump. You see what I'm saying? Thinking that we going from one end to another, and we're not. And I'm not finished. Hold on.
Get him, girl.
Listen, right? I've been studying from a brother named Keith Little and King L. Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a code I want people to understand. This is how they've been fucking us up. 22 CFR 93.1, service through diplomatic channels. When they pull you over for any kind of stop, right? That officer is bringing suit to you, even if he say it's a ticket or whatever. Before he brings suit to you, there is supposed to be service through the diplomatic channel, which is the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. Treasury is supposed to be the one that's the diplomat that goes in to verify who the fuck you are before they bring suit to you, right? They know that they not supposed to be bringing suit against us indigenous people. But because we don't know their rules and their statutes, they can just bring suit to us and we accept that. See, if you get your ass on the phone, you call the U.S. Treasury right then and there, they looking at you like, oh shit, this motherfucker knows something, right?
So in court rules, it say that in order for a suit to be established, you have to have a joinder of the parties.
Right.
The joinder of the parties is being delegated dual responsibility to the policy enforcer. This is why they call him policy enforcer. So on first contact is establishing a coming in mutual contact, even if you don't consent.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of the Fifth Amendment was to keep you from ever consenting to a joinder of the parties. Therefore, you cannot be part and party to the fraud.
Mm-hmm.
When you rebel against them, they declare a war against you, and they call it a warrant.
Yep.
The war rant is the ongoing declaration of war established by the Pope and the Crown of England against the organic peoples of the land. They originally called it the Doctrine of Discovery. The Doctrine of Discovery was the permission slip to establish the chess position as white, called the white man's burden, to a group of people that would just so happen to be blackamoors. Right? They tell us the story in mind in blackface. Because when they do blackface, they are performing the pantomime to tell you who's controlling them. They wear the blackface to tell us they face look this color, but they got on the white gloves. They are exposing something called the black hand. We know today the black hand to be the KKK, aka the Black Brotherhood of Barcelona. So when they had the pale faces on the raids into the indigenous village, he was being led by another white robe that had a black hand that was the most brutal of all other people that was doing the raid. But he didn't have on no gloves. But he had a black hand. Clayton motherfucking Bigsby, the Black Klansman. He brought his regalia from Spain and dressed up the ones that he used to block the institutions with. Because they can't reap the benefit if we restore our tribal structures to the land.
Right.
So it's all related. So the joinder of the parties still has to take place on the execution of the warrant. That's called arraignment. How do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or stand mute? If you stand mute, the court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. That means the judge took it up on himself to speak for you. Right? And to issue you a connection to the other side of the courtroom, the other party, as guilty or not guilty, or if you stand mute, the court enter not guilty on your behalf. Now the parties is officially adjoined. We have to bind this. So the judge sets a bind. The burden falls on the person who falls in the category of imbecile to execute the bond. In other words, we're going to hold you for collateral for the bond of this subject matter. They have subject matter jurisdiction because it's only their subject. They just don't have the jurisdiction of the person. But since your straw man can't speak for itself and you don't know that they holding your straw man, they going to hold you hostage.
Right.
Until somebody can represent the interests of the straw man by putting up credits known as fiat currency in the amount issued by the judge.
Right. Right. And this is the thing that gets me to what we didn't know, right? I look at this was blowing my mind too about the real post office, and I've been telling people to go look this up, right? That at one point in time, the real courthouse was connected to the post office, right?
Master General,
right? And so we was never supposed to be dealing.
That's tribal.
With any, right? We was never supposed to be dealing with any administrative courts. You look at the registered agent for the post office, which is the U.S. United States Postal Service. Look at their cars. They don't have plates on their cars. They have numbers on their vehicles. See, every other agency has registered plates on their vehicle because they're all corporations, but they have numbers on theirs, right? And we didn't know that our homes were actual military posts because of this number system with us having registered addresses.
Right, those are barracks.
Yep.
We all living in the barracks. That's why they gave us meritorious manumission under the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yep.
They liberated us from private ownership, as they say, and allowed us to freely roam the land as trustees under meritorious manumission. By doing such, if we can keep our tax quota, they will allow us to unmolestedly roam the land. But we have to abide by the rules and their policies that they put forth as codified doctrines of law,
Right.
right? We have our own legal traditions that's from the land that they try to stifle and suffocate. What they call public law is the regulations of a foreign military entity um, exercising its occupation over an occupied territory, right? They have to have a set of rules to prevent the occupants of the occupied territory who are rightfully there to be rebellious and belligerent and remove them from power, right? So they give us the impression of their legitimacy. They give us pride in our defeat in their conquest by celebrating their conquest on days that were significant to our culture. They transferred our cultural traditional days over to their economically advantageous systems of corporate entity. So they was able to capitalize off our traditions by renaming them and reclassifying them as holidays.
Yeah.
And then they make us, as we become awakened, belligerent to the holidays because we see how they were usurped.
Right.
Right. And we take that process of being usurped as it's not ours. All the time, those holidays was key festivals that we used to keep as families in order to keep extended families with strong bonds.
Right.
None of these major holidays are supposed to be less than a week.
Yep.
Right. The major holiday was the winter solstice because it's the transitioning from the conclusion of harvest. Now we go into what's called feast period, where we cook in-home meals and we have family meals together. We sit around the table because it's cold outside. Now this is the bonding period. The wintertime was for family bonding. This is why they made sure the children went to school in the wintertime. Because it's the time that we're not supposed to work harvest. We ain't supposed to be out working. We supposed to be doing indoor events with the family in the north, right? In some parts around the outer borders, because of the different climate, had different practices and customs. Right. So they had to stamp out our culture by what we use as unity, they use for separation. So our military, that's how I knew we was at war. When I looked around at the layout of the city streets, it's all military regimented, like military bases. It's just bigger.
Yep. All of it's military. Every last part of it's military. Even the hospitals, it's all military. It's all military. All of their institutions, it's all military. People don't understand that they literally why they bring you in their jurisdiction in the first place is because they think you're a part of the militia. They think they have a record of us not knowing, right, that it was all military. They have a record of some of us as members of the militia. And that's why they feel like they can bring you into their military tribunals, because they literally have you as a part of the militia and you didn't know it. You
because
can read the damn Constitution.
we inherit the fight of our ancestors because they're gonna hold us responsible for the ancestors that rebelled against their system all the way until they eradicate us.
Yep.
So we have the option of now being wise enough to say, hey, look, we see what's going on and we don't want no part of it. And leave their system to itself.
Right.
Right. And you have to use your best judgment and do the best you can. But the faster you get away from the system, the faster we switch over.
Absolutely. That's the only way. The faster you switch over, literally, like limiting your commercial activity, because that is also what's keeping this thing going, and how they have jurisdiction is because of the commercial activity. You operating in commerce, they thinking that you're a bank, and even having a corporation. When you have a corporation, people didn't know that you were supposed to contact the Federal Reserve to get verification, to get approval from their board, to even touch their dollars and receive them.
Well, most of us never investigated how to start our own corporation because remember, we was all mom and pop's businesses.
Right.
The ones of us who had businesses, it was the moms or pops business. Little restaurant, little store, you know what I'm saying? Enough to keep the family going. We didn't want too much. Feed the hungry children in the neighborhood, get the kids out the street, give them something to do. Right?
Right.
So while we waking up, now our boys is fighting each other in the streets, calling each other ops because the system told them they was ops. They not really ops. They don't know that they shooting friendly fire at each other.
Yep.
Right? And if they ever stop shooting at each other, we discovered this after the Rodney King riots. If they ever stop shooting at each other, the police will send undercover agency in to make sure they start back shooting at each other.
Yep. 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 There's so much. Like I said, there's over like 8 million statutes and codes. How can somebody read all of this shit?
Every day you break in one of their rules and regulations, whether you know it or don't know it.
Yeah.
And ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Yeah.
That
Basically.
means that's because they already know that you don't know. And because you are imbecile and you ignorant, they just have to go along with it as if you knew what you was doing. So ignorance of their law is no excuse. All the time is competence of their law nullifies the reality that they law belong here.
Yep.
And as long as they keep us intimidated by reading, by telling us and convincing us, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book, then tell us we was the niggas. We wasn't the niggas.
Right.
Originally, Irish was called the niggas. Originally. If you Google the term white nigga, it's going to tell you they Irish. They was the original ones who was warring with the Catholic Church and fled over here for refuge. They princesses, 2 of them, Scotia and Scotia, was brought by Templars. And that's why when you look at the History Channel, they say that the Templars was here hundreds of years before Columbus.